So do you think your grandfather and your father and the legacy of the Lomaxes? Oh, and I'm forgetting your aunt as well. Do not get the respect, or better yet, um, people don't tell the story accurately with, because that is something to in a very racially tensioned moment in history, to want to study a culture that is not part of the power structure, which again, I don't want to keep bringing it there, but I want to give you the opportunity to address these things.
My grandfather was not politically progressive, but he was culturally progressive. And as I said, he recognized that African Americans had created a sui generis art form, or not one art form, but many. And that it, other people were saying, oh, they're just singing European things badly, which is ridiculous. Okay. Um, if they did sing European things, they made it into something else. They made it into something of their own. So, when grandfather proposed to do this kind of grand overview of all traditional, secular, and sacred music in that he could find in most of the states of the South, all of them, it was a big deal. He was already old. He was born in 1869. And I think he felt it was his way of perhaps paying respect to African Americans. And he really cared about the people that he recorded. He got to know many of them. He went back to see them numerous occasions, sat with them. He sat on the ground and they sat on a chair. And in that time, a white man wouldn't do such a thing. He called them Mr. and Mrs. So the point is that he proposed this huge collection and he carried out to the best of his ability. He had developed really good musical sensibilities, really fine ones, and he understood when something was good or kind of phony, like prettified or something like that. And so most of the material he collected is really fine, and he found some beautiful singers too, Vera Hall and who else? Lamont, Lead Belly,
Yes, Lead Belly
the
and a whole
person in
bunch of
Georgia,
things.
many.
I
And
do have a question. I have a
yes,
question.
yes.
So, could you please address um, the statement that you heard about royalties and how that
Yes.
works with the recordings back then, and where all the money is going or went? Because I think that's also something that a lot of people get confused how it works in this
I
space.
will absolutely say loud and clearly what it is all about. Lamont, could you stay in the picture, please? It's a little, if it doesn't mess things up, it's easier for me to talk to you than talk to myself. Um, Can I put it in some context?
Absolutely.
Because it not a context to make it seem better, but just to understand what was going on. Okay. At the time, the 40s, 30s, that Lomax and others were recording traditional music in the field. And in England also, people were doing it other places, not just. Nobody had a really a handle on where they belonged in terms of or what you could do with them. The library does not take copyrights, Library of Congress. And they were basically in public domain. And so, and they didn't pay anyone to do this work, to do the singing. And after my father had gotten a real job there, he urged them, I think it was 1937, he said, look, you have to pay people. You can't just take stuff and not give them something, it's not right. So they began to do this. They kind of fired Alan because the Congress, some congressmen who were very conservative thought he was too left wing. And so he was on his own. And at that time, there were not the collectors. People who were interested in this music were some of them scholars, some of them amateurs, some people who lived like, a country squire or something lived in a area of a rural place and got fascinated by the music and collected it. There was such a range, but it was not professionalized. There was no ethnomusicology, and folklore was a relatively new academic discipline. And so people like Alan didn't have a income, and a steady income. So he made money by, he didn't want to be an academic. He felt his calling was to document these traditions and try to understand what they really were all about,